Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's the Mind Reprogrammer. Today I want to speak about this idea or this concept called the ego. I want to speak about, first of all, how we need to understand how it works. Then we need to understand how it operates. And then we need to begin to conceptualize how we can begin to, rather than think of the word transcend, but more with integrate it into our consciousness. But first of all, you might be wondering by this idea of the ego, what is it? Well, from my own personal experiences and my own research, I've understood the ego to be a conceptualization of all of my life experiences that I've had thus far. The ego is every memory, every single thing that's happened to us, everything that we seem to believe about life and how life operates. The ego is basically another idea for what I like to use the terminology of the personality construct. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a personality, and there's nothing wrong with having or understanding that it may be a construct. But at the same time, it's also important for us to begin to realize that there is an aspect of us that is bigger or is more than the ego. And this is the part today that I want us to begin to think about more. This is the part today I want us to begin to conceptualize and begin to possibly even integrate into our psyche. But you might be wondering, why the hell am I doing a video about the ego? You see, for a long time in my life, in my journey, as I've been on this journey of awakening or realization or understanding myself in a deeper way in my experience to reality, I begin to realize that there's definitely two aspects that exist within all human beings. We have an aspect called the small self, which is, as I said, the personality, and we have an aspect called the true self. And the true self, if you want to give it a name, is this idea of what we call the soul, the spirit. This aspect of us that I believe, from my own personal experiences and experiencing other people, that it exists. If we go into modern day psychology, we have this idea from Sigmund Freud of the id, the super-id, and all of these ideas. And there's some sense in what this man is saying, because he speaks about this idea that in life, things can happen to us that can affect our egos. And once our egos are affected, it's very, very hard for us to kind of reintegrate it. And this is when we begin to kind of hear about traumatic experiences, when your personality, your ego, has not been able to integrate a situation that's occurred. So what I mean by a trauma, for instance, is imagine something crazy happens to you, or you witness something really mad, and all of a sudden, whilst your brain is trying to load it and put it back into its correct places, it suddenly realizes that actually, wait a minute, I'm not able to heal from this, I'm not able to process it. So this is when, like a jigsaw puzzle, when you're trying to put the piece on, the piece doesn't fit properly. And that's what I mean by trauma. But going back to what I'm saying, as I've been on this journey of awakening, I begin to realize that one needs to begin to develop a relationship between the ego, which is of the mind, and the soul or the spirit, which is of the heart. And I feel it's really important that we begin to make this correlation between which of these things are talking in our mind and which of these things are kind of leading us. Because there's one thing I've realized, is that the ego is something that thinks. So when we think about the voice in our head that tells us we can't do stuff, when we think about the voice in our head that judges us, the voice in our head that makes us feel incomplete, makes us feel low, makes us feel depressed, makes us feel angry, that's definitely the ego. And when we think about the true self, the part of you that knows the essence and the truth of who you are, the part of you that encourages you, the part of you that feels warm inside, the part of you that when you're sitting down with people and you're laughing and you've forgotten the idea of self. Because it's important to realize as well that if we begin to see reality as a composition of ideas, so I'll give you an example. Me being a man, being a male, that's an idea. Me being black, that's an idea. These are all languages, and these are all things that we use to begin to make sense and understand reality. But in the truest essence of it, they're not as real as we think. And once we can begin to let go of these ideas that don't really serve us, don't really look after us, we can begin to kind of integrate it. But what I really want to share today is this practice, something that I've been using for a while to be able to decipher in my head or decipher in my being if it's the mind talking or the ego talking. You see, I'm a big believer of the heart. Even on a neurological level, we have brain cells or heart cells, and these cells actually are very intelligent. And what I find is that usually we don't have a connection between our head and our heart. And not having a connection between our head and our heart is what causes this imbalance, this unease, this stress, this inability to be able to move forward. So, if you do feel safe, I want to kind of lead us into a quick exercise today, an exercise that I always use whenever I need to make a big decision and I need to come from the place of my heart, from my true self, rather than my ego. This is what I simply do. So this is an idea. I've got to make a decision between two big jobs. I've got to make that decision. I need to know if I'm going to pick this job or pick another job. What I do immediately is I close my eyes, I breathe in and out, I bring my awareness to my heart. I even touch my heart and I direct the question exactly to my heart. And the first answer that comes, the first one, that's the one I go with. That's the one that I follow, and that's the one that I believe to be true. And I can promise you, since I've been practicing this, since I've been using this as a technique, as an idea, I can promise you it's revolutionized the way that I see the world. But what I want to kind of encourage us today to do, in general, is I want us to begin to see that our personality construct as a whole is ideas. The experiences that we've encountered from our parents, the stories we've been told about society, the rules we've been taught about life, these are all a composite of what I call the personality construct or the small self. And it's important that once you can begin to make a distinction or a distinguish between actually, maybe I'm more than what I think I am. Maybe I'm more than what I've been told I am. Maybe actually, within the depth of my being, there is an aspect of me that knows everything. You see, there's a good word that I heard from somebody, and I was reading something a few years ago, and somebody said an example of the ego stands for edging God out. And when I heard that, I sat down and I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. Edging God out. Or if you don't want to use the word God, edging goodness out. You see, I believe when we were created as human beings, we were created to come into our body and to experience what it means to have an ego. Experience what it means to go around the world and to be really identified in this idea of self. And to walk around it and to think that this is all I am. But I can promise you today, from the depth of my heart, as I talk to you right now, there is an aspect of you that is bigger than that. And even as I'm talking to you right now, I'm talking to that aspect of you that is bigger than that version, bigger than that ego, bigger than that idea. And you might have heard different names of what is this aspect of self that is bigger than the ego. It's called I am. I'm going to say it one more time because even when I just said it, I just got a bit of goosebumps inside. It's called I am. That's all it is. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an age. It doesn't have a location. But it exists all the time. And the one place, if you want to find where it truly exists, it's in your heart center. You see, I want us to begin to conceptualize and begin to live from this place that we call the heart center. I want us to begin to kind of see life as an opportunity to do things from our heart, to do things from our soul, to do things from our spirit. You see, science has this idea called the flow state. And the flow state is when you lose conceptualization of time, you lose conceptualization of your body and your place, and you're just present in the moment. And it's funny, here we go again, bringing that word again, present. You see, I see this idea of flow state as being connected to your soul, being connected to your spirit. When you're truly in sync with every single part of you, you suddenly forget that who you are, what you are, where you come from. And in that moment, that's when you're kissing that trueness, that depth, that part of you that is so much more bigger than you can ever imagine. I don't know why I feel inspired to speak about this topic. I think I've been doing a lot of reading recently, and I've been researching a few things, and a lot of things have been bubbling up for me on my journey about my ego, about my true self, and how I want to be in this world, and how I also want to express myself as a human being. And if there's one thing I begin to realize, is that the ego plays many games and tricks. The ego is the part of you that wants to have more, and it needs, and it doesn't have no understanding that as human beings we're all one. And I know it might sound a bit wishy-washy when I say we're all one, yibbidi-widi, but on a quantum level, we are. If you go from the aspect of science, which speaks about the Big Bang and speaks about how we all came from this one infinitesimal massive explosion, if we all started from this little tiny thing and boom, here we are, then we all came from one atom, one molecule. And if you think about it on a deeper level, when we go into quantum physics and we look at this spooky effect where we have an atom and another one, and when one touches the other one's affected. It's really important that we begin to understand that we need to begin to live from our heart center. If there's one thing that I would love for you to take away from this video, and it's just 3 ideas, is number 1, you are way more than who you think you are. You are more than your name, your age, your identity, your culture. You are way bigger than that. And it's so important for you to begin to understand that. Number 2, listen. Connect to your heart regularly. Bring all your awareness into your heart. If you struggle to go into your heart, think about somebody you love. Think about someone that makes you smile. Think about someone that lights you up. And as you just think about them and you just feel their presence in your heart, ask yourself a question from your heart. I want us to kind of check in more into how our heart's doing. Because I believe in my soul, in my spirit, as I talk to you, my true self dwells in my heart. Whenever I need to make a decision, like I told you, I connect to my heart. I connect to that part of me that I know is connected to everybody else. Because the ego, unfortunately or fortunately, it doesn't believe that it's connected to everybody else. The ego loves to believe it's separate. But I'm telling you, you're not separate. You're connected. Me and you right now as we're talking, we are connected. Your actions that you do affect me on a micro subatomic level. And I really believe that with all my heart. And this is why as I make this video right now as I'm talking to you, I know it's going to affect you. I know it's going to affect you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And this is why I do this. Because I'm talking to that part of you that I know is way bigger than you. And the last part, remember this. You are so important. You are so valued. Like honestly, if that's the one thing you understand from this, that part of you that's bigger than you, it knows this. It knows this to be true. I know there's a part of you that thinks, oh, maybe this guy is just talking nonsense, or it can't be real. Honestly, I'm telling you. That's what I want to share today. You know, I just want to share this. I want you to understand that there is a part of you that is bigger, way bigger. If you liked anything I said at all, and if you got this far in the video, like, whoa, if you're getting this far in the video, honestly, like, I love you. But still, subscribe to the channel. It's the Mind Reprogrammer. Thank you so much, as always, for just listening and playing with these ideas that I chuck into the collective conscious. Just play with it. Have an amazing day.